Hello, friends. That would be Cook messing with the buttons, which don't allow me to push the buttons because I'll mess this up. but, but, but I am hosting this meeting. Misha's unable to join us, and so I am hosting this meeting. And I had to see if the button actually worked like I thought intuitively it might. And yay, it does.
Good afternoon. This is Carter.
Oh my goodness. Carter, it's Cook. If you only knew the trouble I have with technology, you would feel so sorry for me. Oh goodness.
You had a good week so far?
So far, I'm seeing folks around the Zoom land kind of giving the sort of, maybe kind of vibe, but it's going to get better. The weather's getting warmer, and in a week or two, I'm hopeful it's going to stop messing with us from, warm to chilly and everyone's sinuses going bonkers the way they have been. Ugh,
Mm-hmm.
it'll get better. It'll get better.
It will get better.
So, Mr. Chair, you ready to get this party started?
I am. I have, before we call to order, I have a question or two. The first is our speaker here? I don't see him.
Hmm.
Mr. Smith?
I don't see him
There's-
either.
That's okay. We can start without him. That's not a big deal. I just was curious that to make sure he wasn't, sometimes people sign in under different names or whatever. And
Right.
yeah, and then Steph, do you know what our quorum number is?
Do I know what?
What our quorum number is?
Believe it is 9.
9.
See why I need this, Misha? See why I can't do Misha's job? I'm pretty sure it is 9. But if you'll manage the show, I will
I,
go out and check the bylaws just to double
that
check.
That's
Okay,
fine. I was just gonna say we could maybe hold off for another 3 or 4 minutes just to be sure we had that
absolutely
number in place.
perfect.
So if anybody needs to go refill your coffee, use the restroom, something like that, we're gonna take just 2 or 3 more minutes before we begin. Although we just got a couple more, so. Hey Steph, are you seeing my messages there in the chat? Sorry guys, we're just doing a little behind the scenes business here. Bear with us for a moment. You're on mute, Steph. I can't. Stephanie, you're muted.
This is how my week is going, to be honest. Okay, Tanya, we see you're having computer problems. Totally understand that. And she's got to leave around 4:15. Cool. Karen is holding down the fort in HR all by herself. So if she disappears from view or doesn't answer her question, she's dealing with a work issue. No worries. John, don't know, not sure. Repeat visitor.
Cool. That's why
So,
this is why I'm asking the quorum question.
yes, absolutely. And I'm still trying to find that number. Jeez Louise. Bear with me.
Because the best I can do, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9. Yeah, I think maybe I've got 9. So if that's
Okay.
true, then we're good.
I'm
1,
thinking,
2, 3,
yeah, I
4,
think so,
5,
but
7,
shoot.
8, 9. Yeah, is what I count. Because you don't count toward that, Steph, correct?
Nope. Staff does not. Oh, this is aggravating. You can't find something you want to.
I was gonna say, I think I count 9 as well. Nathan Stewart, is that a guess or?
Yeah, that was one of the questions I had, Quayla. But it's okay. I think we're good.
I think y'all counted 9 as well, so.
Hey,
So
Mr. Stewart, this is Cook. Would you please let us know who you welcome, first of all. And second of all, would you please let us know who you are so we can stop wondering?
Hi, I'm sorry. I contacted Misha
Yeah,
for the meeting link and she sent me the link.
perfect.
Right.
Perfect. We welcome your attendance.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. And now, Marion Wildgruber, we have visited with you before in the past. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Marion lives in Oak Ridge and was an instrumental person in putting together a disability advisory body for the city of Oak Ridge. And she remains engaged in all things disability advocacy. And we also have another guest, HOA Dogwood Garden. Would you like to share with us who you are and how you heard about us?
I am Mary Jo Costello, and I'm an AARP volunteer, and I got an email. They wanted someone to sit on the group.
Okay.
And so I talked to Misha. I said, I'd like to see what it's like to see if I would be interested.
I love it. Well,
awesome.
you're more than welcome, and we're pleased to have you here. And just for the notes that I'm kind of responsible for taking, would you repeat your name, please?
Mary Jo,
Mary.
Costello.
Perfect. Thank you, Mary Jo.
Thank you.
Okie dokie.
All right, Miss Cook. I think we should just proceed on the assumption that we have quorum and just go ahead. Now, I'll go ahead and call us to order. It's 3:08. And
Okay.
so at this time, we're going to be called to order and we'll begin with roll call. So Steph, if you want to go through that.
I literally slid in the office 2 minutes before I popped onto the screen, so I don't have the roster in front of me. So if it's okay, Mr. Chair, what I'll do is I will note those who are Codi members present and then our guests. And
Perfect.
then, of course, as others come in, I'll add them too, who
Perfect.
attended.
Great.
Okay, so I have Robertson, Barber, Shimon, or your screen says Shimon Ott by chance. Just saying. We have Lowe, Maxwell. We have Villanueva. We have Carter, Ziegler, and Mo. Excellent. Thank you all for being here.
Very good. Thank you, Stephanie. And at this time, I'd like to call for a motion to approve the February minutes that went out earlier this week. And if you'll recall, in order to make that motion or to second it, you had to have been present at that meeting. So if I can have
Barbara,
that
this is
motion.
Lowell. I make a first motion for approval of February's meetings.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second it.
That second
Maxwell.
came from Maxwell, is that right?
Maxwell, yes, Maxwell seconds it, yes.
Great. Any opposed? Okay, those minutes are approved. And on our itinerary for today, our agenda for today, the next thing we have is our featured presentation from Mike Smith from the Sertoma Center. I don't believe Mr. Smith is currently with us. So we're going to move on to member advocacy and information. So I'm going to turn it over to Karen Lowe.
Okay, and I only have to talk for 5 minutes still, even though the prisoner's not, okay, great. Okay, like here, Karen, 20 minutes now. So I picked healthcare accessibility because it's honestly come up with me in a number of different ways recently with me personally, and also with some family and friends of mine. So it's a huge topic and I wanted to touch on a few different things, so I'm gonna jump around a little bit. First of all, why it matters is because at some point in your life, you're gonna need a doctor. You're gonna need healthcare in some form or fashion, even though if you're like me, you avoid it as much as you can. It is what it is, and as you get older, it seems to be you get to visit your doctor more often. So accessibility is the law. The Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Section 504, makes sure that doctors' offices, clinics, and medical equipment are accessible to people with disabilities. So if they say they can't do it, they're wrong. They might not want to do it. They might not want to incur the expense to do it, but it's the law. So I looked at a number of things, and of course, all of us are on Codi in some form or fashion because we believe in advocating for people with disabilities, specifically with healthcare accessibility. And we have actually in a past meeting talked about the Tennessee Disability Pathfinder, which is a great resource if you just don't know where to turn. And they have it broken down. You can look for it by your location, by what you're needing. I personally have used it for some of my family members who aren't computer savvy and needed some extra help. But I just wanted to also touch on that having a disability is expensive. And healthcare plays into that. So I found some stats because I like my stats. So the average annual cost for a person with disability for healthcare is $13,492, which is significantly higher than a person without a disability, which is $2,835. Now those numbers are old. The newest I could find was 2018. So everything has gotten more expensive since 2018, so I'm sure that has also gone up. Now I did find some interesting information regarding the Affordable Care Act and specifically how it helped with the disability population. So the Affordable Care Act has helped ease the affordability issue with 21.2% of people with a disability reporting problems immediately prior to the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. That number was 26.9. So it wasn't a huge drop, but improvement is improvement, and I will take it, especially when it's coming from the government. So I also did find another study that was actually done with the National Disability Institute in partnership with UT in Knoxville, and the Oxford Institute of Population on Aging. And this is estimating that a household containing an adult with a disability and this would be a disability that limits their ability to work. So either they can't work or they're limited in what they can do, they're underemployed. It requires on average 28% more income or an additional $17,690 a year to obtain the same standard of living as a similar household without a member with a disability. That's a huge number. Of course, I did find some information regarding indirect and direct costs, but with regards to advocacy, because it really is important that you remember, as one of my friends always says, doctors are practicing. It's a doctor's practice. They do not have all the answers. You know your body, you know what is normal for you and what is not normal for you. It is very important that you be able to trust your healthcare providers. If you go into any doctor's office, nurse's office, whatever, and you feel uncomfortable, you have the right to leave. I have personally done that and shocked the doctor because he said, "We're not done." And I said, "Yes, I am. You're not listening to me. I'm leaving." And I went to luckily I had a primary care doctor who I trusted at the time and said, "This isn't going to work. I need a different referral." You have that right. So some things with regarding advocacy, because we always, or at least I always think of advocacy in terms of how I can help other people, but you can also use it to help yourself, which is sometimes more difficult. But first of all, believe in yourself. Again, you know if there's a problem. Clarify the issue. If it helps to write it down, because you don't want to forget things when you're meeting with them. Communicate effectively. So being polite and approaching things with kindness goes a long way, especially with doctors. And I know some doctors do not have the best bedside manner, but that doesn't mean you have to be rude back. Keep it short and to the point if you can. Stay calm. If you get upset, that's never going to make it have a good outcome. Share information responsibly, so don't overshare. Do stick to the point as much as you can. Get the facts. If you know certain things about yourself, like for me, I have certain medications that I can't take. I make sure and share that up front. That way we nip that in the bud before they go down a pathway that's not going to work for me. I've also told them I'm not doing certain tests anymore because it doesn't show anything and there's no point in me paying a $300 deductible, or my part of a deductible, to have that done when they're not gonna find anything new. Ask if you can have things in writing if you're not sure. That way you can have someone who you do trust go over it with you. Keep records and then follow up. And just remember to say thank you. People remember people with a disability, whether you want them to or not. I always want it to be a good memory, hopefully, or at least a neutral one, not a bad one. I recently went in somewhere that I haven't been in at least 6 years. And the guy goes, he didn't know my name, but he remembered me. So you have to be aware of that. And there is a difference between being assertive and being aggressive. So being assertive is being forthright about your wants, your needs, and while you are still being considerate of the rights, needs, and wants of others. Being aggressive is doing what is in your own best interest without regards for the rights, needs, and feelings or desires of others. That ties into healthcare. People can come off as aggressive without meaning to, especially if they're dealing with an unknown or emergency situation. So it is very hard to remain calm in that kind of thing. But you have the right to ask. If I can't get on the table for my exam, I have the right to say, find me a step stool. Find me a table that fits me. Why not? We're gonna make this work, and you need to flag my file, please, because I don't want to have to wait an extra 2 hours because you forgot Karen's a little person. It really makes a difference. And I promise nobody will get mad at you, and if they do, who cares? Was that 5 minutes, John?
I mean, I don't really care if it was 5 minutes or not. It was super informational and helpful, I think. So
Okay,
don't worry about the time. Looks like Cook has a question,
okay,
comment.
Karen, would you be so kind as to share your notes so that I may paraphrase them?
sure.
Thank you. That was great. And I really appreciate the remark about being your own advocate, and I think you said you've always seen advocacy as something you would do for others and maybe not so much for yourself. I can certainly understand that. But what I have learned is if I don't and am uncomfortable advocating for myself, I'm probably not very effective or helpful to advocate for somebody else. So I just appreciate that you're willing to advocate, because healthcare is honestly the one thing that all the disability advocates in the late 80s demanded equal access to, and that was not included in the ADA. They got employment, they got transportation, they got state and local government, and just right to sue and assert their rights. But healthcare was the one biggie that was left out. So these things matter, and I appreciate your advocacy.
Mole.
This is Mull. I just wanted to integrate, I just wanted to follow back up with what Karen just talked about. That was an excellent presentation. And in my line of work, I see this all the time as a barrier for our individuals that have disabilities, is communicating with their primary care doctors or hospitals, and just the simplest and basic accessible needs. And so I think that's a great thing to talk about and bring awareness to, and encourage our population to be self-advocates. Thank you, Karen.
Oh, you're welcome, Konya. I know you have experience, and some of our other members do too. And even at my job, I have to remind people that you can ask for a different appointment time if you're going to lose your job over this. Maybe say, hey, do you have an afternoon appointment? People don't always think about it, so it's just important to remember that. So, any other questions?
I had a quick one. This is Barber. That first stat that you gave out, the amount that a person with a
Mhm.
disability pays. I was wondering if you had a similar stat for someone without a disability, and how much difference it is. Because my,
Oh,
my
yeah.
suspicion is it's a very, very large difference.
So, if you're talking about the first stat, the average annual cost for a person with a disability for healthcare, just healthcare, is $13,492. And this is a healthcare that limits your ability to work.
Right.
Uh, the without a disability, it's at $2,835.
Yeah.
Now, these are from 2018. So, like I said, I'm sure numbers have changed, but that was the newest I could find. Yeah, if you look at out-of-pocket costs alone, it said they're more than twice as high. 1,053 versus $486. So
Yeah. So,
it's a
I mean,
huge,
what I'm hearing is even though the numbers are going to be different now, the proportions are probably similar. So it's roughly 4 times.
right.
Yeah. That's really helpful. And as the parent of someone with a disability, I don't have one myself, but as a parent of someone with a disability, I'm trying to constantly enforce these exact things that Karen is talking about. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If there's something you don't understand, like ask, make the phone call. I know you don't want to make the phone call, but make the phone call. Things like that. We're just constantly kind of hammering. So thank you, Karen, for that.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? Okay. Well, let's move on to our committee and strategic plan reports. Looks like bylaws did not meet. and membership and transportation are meeting at the beginning of April. So that pretty much just leaves us with universal design. So Villanueva, I think, is going to take that since Simmons is out. Maybe. Okay. While we're
Can you all
waiting.
hear me?
Yes, got you now.
Okay, it keeps going in and out. I keep missing a lot of what's being said, but if you all can hear me. So for our universal design meeting we met this week, we were talking a lot about some emails that we had sent out earlier in that day in discussions regarding the missing middle housing. We were talking about different things along the lines of street parking, parking for individuals closer to housing units rather than the street parking and things like that, that a lot of people aren't actually talking about when we're talking about our missing middle housing. And just kind of similar things that we've talked about since we started this meeting. And if you have accessible housing, you have renters for life. You're going to have individuals that are going to want to stay there and age in place. Some more things we discussed were the definitions of affordable and accessible and what that really means and how that limit is determined based on income and a certain percentage of that. Because I think a lot of times what we've been seeing, and I'm sure each of you have experienced this in some regard, that affordable housing is still, I think Nancy, you said this, that a lot of the affordable housing that we're seeing is still in the 300,000s if you're trying to buy a house. And like, how affordable is that? Especially if you're looking at individuals on fixed income and the availability of housing. So, what our next plan is to bring a realtor to our meeting. We originally talked about going to one of maybe their meetings to discuss this, but we think that it would be better to have one of them included in ours so we could ask them questions, see what trends that they're seeing. If they know of anybody, any builders specifically that are, I mean, they all know the laws and they all know what should be done, but I think one of our biggest issues is just kind of like nailing down what it is that we're trying to do, the audience that we want to get in front of, and how we can make that happen. So we are planning on having a realtor come to our next meeting to start our discussion, talking about the missing middle housing and what kind of potential incentives that could be provided for builders to provide these services, because at the end of the day, they're looking to sell, make money, move on to the next. So after a builder builds a house and it's sold, they're not really looking at the long term of that, like maybe a realtor would be looking at, or what houses are actually needed in the community. So anyway, all of that to say, that was what we discussed in our plans for our next meeting. And if I missed anything, y'all can throw it in there.
No, Villanueva, that was good. That's pretty accurate. I think we've kind of, I decided that it's hard to reach realtors in a large group, and it makes more sense to try to bring one in and do it on a smaller scale. So that's the goal for next time with universal design. I guess we'll move on to new business, and then I'm going to highlight Cook for this. Cook.
Thank you, Barbara. I wanted to say I came to this meeting rushing out of another one. And that meeting was with the housing consultant, the equity plan consultants that we have in town. And I heard what I think is some exciting information in that meeting. So I'm going to share it with you guys. Ready? Here we go. So the powers that be between the city and the county are working on putting together like a landlord or housing owner developer. I'll call it a conference or a summit, but the point is, my understanding is that the city and the county wants to get on the same page and share that information, what we do, how we do it, how housing is developed, which tracks you could take. You know, what happens if somebody accuses you of having discriminated against them in how, you know, just like a large educational campaign. And the other individuals, some of the other individuals that were in that meeting were also talking about how we need a robust educational campaign. It happens to be April is National Fair Housing Month. So I don't know that it would be feasible to attempt to put together something to blast it out all over in April, since that's 2 weeks away. But it is something to think about. And I'm glad to know that there are so many different forces coming to play to make housing more available, affordable, accessible, to all of us, city, county, no matter where you might live. So it's exciting. And I'll say more about the public meeting last night when we get there, but I just wanted to share that I heard that city and county forces are working together and things are ultimately going to look up when it comes to housing issues, compliance, all that good stuff.
Great. Are you calling that, Cook, are you calling that other meeting an announcement and not new business? Because you could go ahead and do that now.
Okay. So the last night we had about 42, I think, individuals who came from the community and about 10 or 11 various city staff to manage the meeting over at Kansler Y, where you had your half-day retreat. And the focus, of course, was all things equity in housing. Joel was there, so he could bring some of the information that's been gone through with the Universal Design Committee. There was a lady there who also is an individual with a physical disability who was there and really gave some insightful information about how she was given, I want to say, 2 weeks to evacuate her home. The owner had sold it and she was just a mere renter. And when it happened, so, you know, so then she's got to scramble, she's got to find housing, and she's still not in her own permanent independent living home per se, but she was fortunate to find a good soul that she's now roommates with. So, I mean, that's just one, but we know for individuals with physical disabilities, locating that unit or that bedroom being rented out or whatever that meets your accessibility needs is almost impossible to do. So there are just a lot of great issues that rose to the top. I'm looking forward to getting all those notes and comments that, you know, were given so that we can share them with you guys. And there will be 2 more opportunities to come to a public meeting for input like that as our equity plan gets a little more put together and that sort of thing.
Great. Thank you, Cook. Does anybody else have any other new business to cover? Okay, then we're going to move on to announce Cook. Yes.
So sorry.
No,
I
okay.
have not managed a Codi meeting in so many years, so I'm rusty. Not really an announcement or public forum, but if it's appropriate and you will allow me, I would love to hear a little bit more from Mary Jo Costello and Nathan Stewart, since you guys have just, you know, joined us to visit once. And this has been a really quick meeting and that sort of thing, but would you guys be interested in coming back? Is this the sort of thing that you enjoy talking about and learning about?
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
Definitely yes for me. Thank you.
perfect. Mr. Stewart said, yes, definitely. That's fantastic.
I'd like to try it another time and see.
Sure.
Now I have a conflict with another meeting that I'm like you, rushing out of one into
That's
another.
okay. I
Um,
get it.
so if I can make them work, it would be something possible.
Perfect. Well, we just appreciate, these meetings are open to the public, and anytime, whether they're on Zoom or in person, which is just 4 times a year, the public is invited. So we know there's a large population of individuals who have a disability or who may be a senior citizen, and it's important that we include your interests and your concerns. So you can always share those with us throughout the year, but anytime you're able to engage with an actual Codi meeting, we just love having you. So I appreciate your being here. And I have just one final thing, Barbara, but it's going to have to be after we technically adjourn, if folks wouldn't mind to just stay on for a couple more minutes.
Roger that. Does anybody else have any
Was-
announcements, or if anybody?
Was there
If any-
so I'm sorry, this is Marion. Was there a room on the agenda for public other guests
Yes,
to speak? Oh,
that's what
okay,
we're doing
I'll
right
wait.
now. So that's I was just throwing it over to
Ah.
you. So go for it.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Well, I was wanting to know if anyone else went over to Nashville for Disability Day on the Hill, and if not, just give my little report, because I went for the first time and really had a blast and found it very, very inspiring and useful.
I did
Has
not.
anybody
I would
has
love to.
anybody else been before?
Yeah.
Marion,
And
this is Cook. I have been before, and it is a fantastic experience. Highly recommend it. It's hard to go in the middle of the week. Over and back, it takes 2 days out of the work week. So I just couldn't justify it. But if I could teleport there, I'd be there every single year. It is important work.
Yes. Yeah, and I do understand that I have the luxury of time and funding, and I think there's often some funding available. I'm sorry, I'm fostering 2 puppies, and they're wrestling right now. But I just wanted to put in the pitch for going. The Tennessee Disability Coalition organizes it every year, and the night before they hold a community party, which is an informal social event where you can get to know other people in the disability community around the state that are able to come. And then the next day you meet at the legislative building, and if you can make appointments with the legislators to talk about bills that are going through the legislative session. And they also had a panel discussion with 4 different people that had gone through the process of starting with a problem they were dealing with and taking it all the way through with help from TDC and others to get the problem through the legislature and a bill passed to help with it. And I attended committee meetings and met with my legislator, and so got fired up. Thought it was great. And also Stephanie mentioned the Oak Ridge Disability Advisory Board that was created almost 2 years ago, and we were meeting last month, excuse me, and talking about wanting to try and work together with Codi more closely and get some mentoring from the Codi and what you've learned and done, and hoping to ask someone from your group to come over and talk to our group in the next couple of months about how Codi operates and what works well for your group. So heads up on that.
Wow, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing both of those things. Yeah, on behalf of Codi, I think we'd love to work more closely with you guys. So looking forward to it.
Thank you.
This is Cook. I just yesterday, where did I learn about this? Donna Stefano with the Tennessee Disability Coalition. You know, if you are on her email list, man, you get some amazing information that others don't maybe have at the ready.
Mm-hmm.
And she sent out an email, I think in January, where there was going to be an online discussion amongst the ADA coordinators in Florida. And it happened yesterday. And somewhere along the line, I guess I RSVP'd, it was open to anybody. And I was impressed with that. So now I'm thinking, the more we can pull together those groups like Codi, offices like disability services, the ADA coordinators, the whomevers focused on social justice and civil rights, how much stronger could our network be? You know, I can also tell you that the Memphis, it's technically their Center for Independent Living. They've changed their name, and I can't remember the name of it right now, but their executive director, Sandy Klink, reached out a couple months ago, and I just failed to mention this. But they want a disability services office. And so they have contacted Misha and I to see what is all you do, how are you funded, how are you structured, etc. And they're going to pitch to Memphis's fairly recent mayor. Let's do this. So I think we have lots of great things going on. The problem is we just don't always know about it because people are doing their thing where they are. So if we could get a way to I don't know if it's put everything in a OneDrive, have a private, not so private, but a Facebook group that people could share. I don't know, but once you learn the people involved in doing these kinds of things, you learn there's a huge network out there. And as big as this Codi body is, with all the tentacles that we touch in our nonprofit lives and the memberships in various committees and stuff, you know, that is huge involvement. But it could be so much bigger. So it's exciting.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and I am a huge one for building relationships and not reinventing the wheel. And bringing those two together means trying to develop some kind of communication and coordination that connects all of these different groups that are doing similar things and don't know about each other. So yeah, 100%.
Love that. Yeah. So do we have any other announcements, or would any of our guests like to say anything else before we adjourn? Okay, well, it is 3:41 and we're going to adjourn at this time. If you're a guest with us, thank you so much for being here today. We're going to ask you guys to go ahead and head out, but Cook, you have something for the Cody members, correct? So we are technically adjourned here, but you guys hang out for a few minutes, please.